Trying again. I have the spinning ball. Finally. I've had the spinning ball for, let's see, 5 minutes now. Okay, it's working. So it's my Friday night live Facebook video where I answer questions about strategies for aging in reverse. So I'm talking about some things that I'm going to be covering in my group, my 6-week group, Women Defying Aging. So our topics are, we've already done week 1, which is mindset, limiting beliefs. Week 2, life purpose. This is week 3. We're talking about nutrition, food. Week 4, next week, we'll be talking about fasting. After that, it's movement, and after that, it's stress. So tonight, what we're talking about, just the basic, I'm talking about food as it relates to longevity. And these are things that have been proven by scientific genetic research to turn on the longevity gene. So that's why we're covering it. So the basic synopsis for tonight is to eat less. I'm going to sidetrack here. One of my favorite ways to talk about food, Michael Pollan said in his book, The Omnivore's Dilemma, he says, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. And like, hey, if that's all you get, that's a good, anyway, let's go back to eating less. A plant-based diet has been shown to be the best, especially for longevity. Another one is to limit protein intake from any source. And sort of a corollary here is to maintain a lean body weight. So I've got a bunch of questions. I don't like videos that are more than 10 minutes, so I'll try to go fast. So one of the questions was, what are the health ramifications of being overweight? Well, that's a whole story, but basically obesity is probably the #1 disease in our country. And so I've got an article that lists the comorbidities of obesity. That means what is obesity go along with and maybe even cause or make worse. So I'm just going to read a list. Depression, GERD, gastrointestinal reflux disease, diabetes risk, metabolic syndrome, and pre-diabetes, all from obesity. Type 2 diabetes, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, female infertility, male hypogonadism. That means smaller testicles, okay? Cancers, there have been a lot of cancers that are connected to obesity. Obstructive sleep apnea, dyslipidemia, asthma, reactive airway disease. I'm going fast to get done. Cardiovascular disease and cardiovascular disease mortality. Hypertension, that's high blood pressure. Polycystic ovary syndrome. Urinary stress incontinence and osteoarthritis are all things that are related to obesity. So that's just from the disease level. But they have definitely found, and they've known this for decades really, that longevity is let's see, we could say inversely proportional to your weight. In other words, or to your what you're eating. In other words, we have known for a long time that what they're calling calorie restriction. It's not my favorite term. I'm not sure how I feel about calories. But at any rate, I'm just going to summarize it again. eating less. They have found that if you are keeping a lean body weight, that you will live longer. So it's the opposite of obesity, right? So another question is, what kind of food, eating, and cooking habits are associated with longevity? Well, if we talk about food, I've sort of mentioned it. We'll go into that in a bit. Eating and cooking habits. Well, the best thing is not to cook, is to eat a raw vegan diet. I mean, that's going to give you the most bang for your buck. Anyway, that sounded weird. Anyway, the bottom line is, going back to Michael Pollan, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. When he says eat food, he means something that looks like food. You know, if you get it out of a box or a package or the freezer, it's probably not food. It's if you can pick it up in your hand and identify, that's an apple. That's what he's calling food. Real, whole food. So, and the other thing I want to talk about, because I had a question about that, is what about protein? Because I know that this flies in the face of one of our, what I call a limiting belief that we have culturally. But it is the first thing I hear. I mean, I've been vegetarian for 50 years. And if I had invested a penny every time somebody said, but where do you get your protein? I would be really wealthy. I'd be giving money away to everybody I know, because that's the first question that you hear is, where do you get your protein? And, you know, they always feel so sad for you. I've been telling my patients for decades, you know, this is what I know to be true from my research and from my experience. And I would say, someday they're going to do research and prove me right. Well, yay! They have. I mean, the genetic research is finally telling us that if we want to live a long, healthy life, we have to cut down on our protein. So usually when people ask me, oh, where do you get your protein? I usually say, I try to avoid it, which is actually true. I have been on a very low protein diet for as long as I can remember, and I've had my patients on a really low protein diet, and they got well, they got healthy. So even though it flies in the face of what you have been told, we need protein. Somebody even asked me why this is. Now, I'm not going to go into a whole scientific thing exactly. I'm going to sort of do a layman's description of why I think it is that protein is a building block, right? We make stuff out of it. We don't burn it for fuel. People think, oh, I'm going to, run a marathon. I better get some protein. Well, we all know that if we're going to run a marathon, we need carbohydrates because we burn carbohydrates as fuel. We don't. The metabolic process to burn protein for fuel is hardly worth it because it just isn't a good food source. So what does it do? Well, it's the structure of our cells and our organs, and it's a structural thing in our body. So if we already have a body, most of us have enough of a body. Some of us have too much of one, but most of us already have one. So unless maybe we're pregnant or maybe we're a serious weightlifter, I don't just mean going to the gym, but I mean, bodybuilder types, we're not building new cells because the protein does get recycled when our food is broken down and it passes through the kidneys are going to hold on to amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. So I really believe, and have for quite a long time, that this really crazy incidence of cancer. I mean, when I went to medical school, they said it was 1 in 4 families that would get cancer. Now it's like 1 in 2 or 3 people. So it's a very high incidence, and I think a lot of it is about our over consumption of protein, because if we already have a body, what are we going to do with these building blocks? I don't know. Let's grow some tumors. Why don't we? Because we got all this stuff we want to make stuff out of. Let's grow some tumors. So that's a whole long aside about the fact that actually it's been proven that a low protein diet will turn on the longevity gene. There's a question, is there any merit to taking supplements like acetylcholine? I know if you read some of the books out there that that are from the whole Western medical approach, a lot of them will start using a lot of supplements. I'm an MD, but that's about as far as it goes with the Western mentality. So I don't believe we need to add supplements or drugs or pills or anything from the outside, because I know that our bodies by nature, it's actually called syntropy, and you can look that up, that our bodies are always striving for perfection. So I am not a supplement person. I do know that if we eat well and live well, which really means having the proper mindset, the right mindset trumps everything we put into our body. Because I've seen so many miracles happen in my practice that are unexplained. You need to put all the pieces together, which includes the whole consciousness and our mindset. So you can take these supplements if you like. I don't personally, because I think that there are too many other factors that are going to take you where you need to go. There was a question about why do certain foods cause bloating? Well, that would be an interesting topic too, but I'm already at 12 and a half minutes. And if there's anybody that's in the chat, I don't see any questions here, but this will be up on my Facebook page. So if you come up with any more questions, please ask and I will answer them. Next week, we're going to talk about fasting, and I have so many questions about that. I do want to remind you that in late September, I am starting a 6-week Women Defying Aging group. It's for women over 40 who want to stop or reverse the aging process. And we're going to use a lot of these strategies that we're going to be talking about on Friday nights. And we'll not just get the information, but we'll be working on it. And I love groups where we can support one another. And please, I'll be happy to have a free consult with you if you want to know more, if you have any interest in either my personal coaching or my groups. Just drop something in the chat or DM me and I will be happy to talk to you. Meanwhile, have a fabulous weekend. I know I will.